A scarf slipped from the woman's neck. The man behind her quickly stepped forward to pick it up. As a breeze passed, the woman turned her head in alarm, but in doing so, her bare neck was completely exposed to the man's gaze. It was the neck of the wife he loved most. How could it appear on this strange woman? The woman froze under the man's greedy stare, instantly reminded of her husband's endless kisses on her neck after their marriage, so frequent they made her feel sick. Years ago, at an art exhibition, the wealthy heir Inwuk had met Marie by chance. From the first glance, he was bewitched and began a relentless courtship, showering her with money. Within a month, they were married. But life in a wealthy family brought Marie no joy. Inwuk had only married her because she resembled his mother, who had died many years ago. He had grown up watching his father abuse his mother to death, trauma that left scars on his childhood. Raised in darkness, he gradually became the very monster he hated. He began tormenting Marie just as his father had tormented his mother. To prevent her from escaping, he assigned bodyguards to follow her whenever she went out. His possessiveness was extreme. He could not tolerate her being alone with any man. If he discovered it, he would drag her home, draw the curtains, remove his watch, and then beat her viciously. Marie had grown used to this cruelty. Her body covered in wounds, she often thought of running away, but every attempt ended with her capture. One day, Marie saw a famous plastic surgeon on television, a doctor who had helped countless disfigured patients find new hope. The thought of changing her face took root. She devised a desperate plan. She smuggled her ailing mother out through the hospital's back door, got into a prearranged taxi, changed clothes to disguise herself, and placed her mother in another hospital for safety. Then, she deliberately left clues in her husband's car, including her phone, which was always monitored, so he would think he knew her whereabouts. On a rocky shore, she placed her high heels and phone, staging a scene of suicide by drowning. Then she fled into the forest. When Inwuk arrived, all he found was the fake suicide scene. Everyone else believed Marie was gone, but he refused to accept it. As he turned toward the woods, he sensed something and rushed in, just as rain poured down. Marie stumbled down a slope, injuring herself. When she reached back for her bag, she heard her husband calling her name. Terrified, she stayed silent until he moved away, then continued running. At last, she reached a road. But no car would stop for her. Desperate, she stood in front of one, and the driver turned out to be the plastic surgeon. At that moment, Marie saw hope. By the time Inwuk arrived, Marie was gone. The doctor had already taken her home. Begging for freedom from her husband's abuse, Marie pleaded with the doctor to change her face. She wanted to begin a new life. When the doctor hesitated, Marie removed her clothes, revealing countless scars. The doctor was shocked. After hearing her story, he could not refuse, and agreed to perform the surgery. Before the operation, he asked if Marie wanted a specific face. She said, "As long as my husband won't recognize me, that's enough. If there's a face you like, you can give me that one." What Marie didn't know was that day was the doctor's darkest day. His wife, who had been in a vegetative state for 5 years, had just passed away that morning. 5 years earlier, his wife had been unfaithful, meeting secretly with his colleague. Though he suspected he hadn't stopped her, fear of losing her held him back. That night, she and her lover were in a car accident, leaving her in a vegetative state. Despite her betrayal, the doctor had cared for her faithfully. Now she was gone. During the surgery, as he drew lines on Marie's face, his late wife's image haunted him. That enchanting smile, how could he forget? His scalpel moved as though sculpting her face onto Marie's. Weeks later, when he removed the bandages, he collapsed in shock. Before him stood his dead wife, alive again. Suppressing his emotions, he encouraged Marie to live bravely, to start anew. But Marie was not his real wife. Once the surgery was done, she prepared to leave. Meanwhile, in the forest, Inwuk found Marie's lost bag. Inside were her ID and a large sum of cash. He instantly realized the truth. No one commits suicide carrying that much money. He ordered his men to search the city until they found her. Marie, with no survival skills after 5 years of being a pampered wife, struggled to find work. Hungry and penniless, she slept on the streets. There she was harassed by 2 thugs, falsely accused of damaging their clothes, and taken to the police station. The police pressed her for her identity, but she dared not tell the truth. With no other choice, she asked the doctor to step in and help. After dealing with the thugs, the doctor took Marie to a restaurant. He could tell she'd had a rough day, so he didn't ask too many questions. For Marie, it was a surprise to realize that living an ordinary life might not be so difficult after all. The doctor, looking at the face that now resembled his late wife, thought of the hardships Marie was enduring. He couldn't bear to leave her alone, so he suggested she stay at his house until she found a job. Meanwhile, Inwuk remembered the dress Marie had been wearing the last time she fled and returned home. That dress was one the doctor had lent her, his wife's dress. Inwuk quickly bribed a female police officer, explained the situation, and asked her to start investigating from the dress. After some checking, they discovered the dress was a limited edition, owned by fewer than 20 women in the country. If they inspected each household and found who was missing that dress, they might uncover Marie's hiding place. Several days of searching turned up nothing. The policewoman reassured Inwuk not to worry. Once the remaining households were checked, they would surely find her. That night, while Inwuk stared out at the heavy rain, Marie was walking home beside the doctor. When she noticed how far he tilted the umbrella toward her, she pushed it back to the middle. In that small moment, the air between them shifted. Something like love began to spark. Wanting to repay his kindness, Marie woke early the next morning to prepare breakfast. Seeing her cooking, the doctor was briefly overwhelmed, almost believing his beloved wife had returned. Over the meal, Marie curiously asked why she had never seen his wife. The doctor paused, then quietly admitted his wife had passed away. To Marie, this gentle and considerate man felt like someone she could finally trust. But on the other side of the city, Inwuk was being scolded by his father for failing to control his wife. His father told him that if he couldn't restrain her, the solution was simple: make her bear a child. Then she would be bound to him for life. Inwuk remembered how his own father had once imprisoned his mother through violence. Though she had tried to run many times, she eventually gave up after becoming pregnant with him. The next day, the doctor's childhood friend, Hara, came to visit. She was shocked when she saw Marie's face. It was identical to her deceased best friend. Horrified, she realized what the doctor had done. The doctor quickly pulled her outside, trying to explain, but Marie, noticing their tense expressions, grew suspicious. She entered the bedroom the doctor had always forbidden her to enter. Inside, she found photographs. In that instant, she understood. The doctor had reshaped her into his late wife. Hara's heart broke completely. She had secretly loved the doctor for years, planning to confess after he finally moved past his grief. But now, he had recreated his wife through another woman. When the doctor returned home, Marie was gone. Desperate, he searched everywhere until he found her at an amusement park. Though shaken by the truth, Marie didn't blame him. After all, he had been the one to free her from her cruel husband. The next morning, however, Hara confronted her. She begged Marie to leave the doctor, not wanting him trapped forever in the shadow of his late wife. Later that day, Marie reflected on the doctor's gentle gaze and realized he still loved his wife deeply. She prepared a farewell meal, dressed in the late wife's clothes, intending to say goodbye. Just then, the police arrived to search the doctor's home. Before he could ask why, Inwuk barged in. From inside the room, Marie trembled at the sound of her husband's voice. She tried to remain silent. Inwuk sensed movement and moved to break down the door, but the furious doctor stopped him. The policewoman intervened, suggesting perhaps the doctor's wife was simply bathing. Reluctantly, Inwuk pulled back. Still, he searched the house and found one of the late wife's dresses, deepening his suspicion. Though they left empty-handed, their search had already exposed Marie's presence. What Inwuk didn't know was that Hara, too, owned the same limited edition dress. When investigators reached her home, she spotted the search list by accident. To protect the doctor, she hurriedly sent her own dress to him by courier. That night, Inwuk returned again, determined to see the doctor's wife with his own eyes. During the tense standoff, a strange woman stepped out. It was Marie, her face transformed. For the first time since her surgery, she stood face to face with her husband. Years of trauma made her instinctively recoil in fear, but the doctor caught her in his warm embrace. At last, Inwuk gave up. With a bitter apology, he turned and left. Afterward, the doctor gently led the trembling Marie into a nearby room and brought her a basin of water to wash her feet. For the first time, Marie felt the tender care of a man who cherished her. Inwuk, however, left in a rage, venting his fury alone in his car. Marie knew then that if she stayed any longer, she would only bring more danger to the doctor. Marie told the doctor she would leave soon. To help her manage basic needs, he gave her a phone, identification documents, and some cash. Not wanting a tearful farewell, Marie chose to slip away quietly at dawn. As she looked one last time at the house that had sheltered her, she felt an ache in her chest. When the doctor woke and found her room empty, he knew she was gone. A wave of loneliness swept over him. On the table, he saw the breakfast Marie had prepared, and in the refrigerator, the side dishes she had marinated for him. That made his heart ache all the more. After leaving the doctor, Marie rented the cheapest attic room she could find. It was shabby, but she felt happy. It was the first time she was truly free from her husband's control. Meanwhile, Inwuk never stopped searching. The policewoman investigating the case discovered that the doctor's wife, Seo-jin, and Hara had been close friends. They had even bought the same limited edition dress together. It was possible, she reasoned, that during the investigation they had covered for one another. At the same time, Hara was leafing through a magazine when she stumbled upon an article. Inwuk, the man who had abused Marie, was none other than the heir to one of Korea's most powerful conglomerates. One evening, as the doctor left work, he unexpectedly ran into Marie on the street. Their eyes met, and he couldn't help but ask if she had been doing well. As they exchanged gentle words, Inwuk appeared, his eyes full of menace, stepping closer and closer. Terrified, Marie stumbled backward, but the doctor pulled her into his arms protectively. Inwuk demanded to speak to Marie alone. The doctor refused, unwilling to waste words, and instead led the frightened Marie away. When he escorted her home, he was shocked by the tiny, dilapidated room she lived in. His heart ached at her suffering. Marie herself was not at peace. When she stepped into her room, she suddenly thought she saw her husband's shadow waiting for her. Panicked, she collapsed to the floor, only to realize it was an illusion born of her fear. In that moment she understood, no matter how her face had changed, the trauma inside her remained. Whenever she faced her abusive husband, she would always feel small and powerless. Hara, worried about the danger, warned the doctor not to see Marie anymore. Inwuk was too powerful to provoke. The art gallery she now managed had once been Seo-jin's greatest achievement, and its biggest sponsor was none other than Inwuk. If he discovered they were helping Marie, the gallery itself might be destroyed. But the doctor refused to listen. His only concern was that Marie had nowhere safe to stay. He asked Hara to help her find another place to live. Seeing his determination, Hara finally confessed what she had carried in her heart for years. His wife had been unfaithful to him all along. Yet when the doctor heard this, he remained calm. He had always known. Hara's heart shattered completely. Meanwhile, Inwuk's own investigation led him to a disturbing discovery. He learned that Seo-jin had been in a car accident 5 years ago and had lived as a bedridden vegetable ever since. But now, Seo-jin seemed to stand before him, alive and healthy. He visited the sanatorium where she had once stayed and learned from a nurse that her recovery coincided exactly with the day Marie had disappeared. Driving back, he stopped at the roadside and stared at a narrow lane. He was certain now, Marie hadn't died that night. Someone had helped her escape. Since Seo-jin continued to avoid him, Inwuk began applying pressure to the art gallery she had once founded. Hara, who now managed the gallery, was left with no choice but to turn to the doctor for help. But the doctor understood too well. Inwuk was only using the gallery as a pretext to search for Marie. And so he resolved that even if the gallery collapsed, he would never let Inwuk see her again. As for Hara, her feelings for Marie were far less deep. What truly mattered to her was the art gallery, her life's work. Desperate to save it from collapse, she secretly arranged a meeting with Marie, pretending it was at the doctor's request. She begged Marie to pose as Seo-jin just once, to help rescue the failing gallery. Although Marie knew how dangerous it would be, Even a single encounter with Inwuk might expose her identity, she agreed. It was her way of repaying the doctor's kindness. She asked for information about Seojin and began practicing her smiles, gestures, and posture. Every detail had to be perfect: the precise curve of her lips, the tilt of her head, the style of her hair. She knew how terrifying Inwuk could be, and she could not afford the slightest mistake. On the surface, she appeared calm and graceful during their meeting, but inside she was trembling with fear. Inwuk, suspicious, dismissed the other guests under the pretext of a sales review, so that he could speak to Mari alone. Forced into the situation, Mari had no choice but to go along. She steadied her voice and introduced the artwork, though Inwuk barely glanced at it. His eyes were fixed on her neck. Even though a scarf covered it, he felt a jolt of familiarity. He knew his wife's neck better than anyone. Mari grew increasingly anxious, often lifting her hand to cover her throat. Then, in a cruel twist of fate, her scarf slipped to the floor. Inwuk bent to pick it up, and froze. It was his wife's. But the face was different. His suspicion grew, yet he couldn't fully believe it. To dispel his doubts, Mari deliberately signed her name with the doctor's surname, presenting herself as Seojin, the doctor's wife. Outwardly, everything remained polite, but both of them were playing dangerous games in their hearts. As they parted, Inwuk leaned close and asked if she knew anything about the wife he had been searching for. At that moment, the doctor arrived. Seeing Mari's strained expression and disheveled appearance, he immediately understood what had happened. As soon as Mari saw him, her defenses collapsed. She fell into his arms, weeping. Back in her rented room, Mari thought about all the ways the doctor had cared for her. But she also remembered the way he had looked at her earlier and called her by his wife's name. A painful realization struck her. To him, she was not fully herself. He still saw his dead wife's face when he looked at her. The doctor himself was conflicted. He no longer knew whether he was unable to let go of his late wife, or falling for the woman standing before him. Determined to uncover the truth, he ordered his men to place the doctor's house under 24-hour surveillance. Yet the cameras showed only the doctor living alone. Seojin never appeared. That led Inwuk to another suspicion. Perhaps Seojin had hidden Mari somewhere else. Soon, Haere was also drawn into the web. She realized the doctor had feelings for Mari, who carried Seojin's face. Summoning her courage, Haere confessed her own love to the doctor, even throwing her arms around him. But he pushed her away coldly. Heartbroken, she sat alone in her car, weeping. Inwuk saw this and immediately sensed an opportunity. He was certain Haere knew something and reached out to her for a meeting. Already devastated and desperate to protect the gallery, Haere agreed to cooperate. Inwuk's demand was simple: he wanted to meet Mari alone. The next day, Haere arranged another meeting. Mari naively believed it was just a private conversation with Haere. But when she arrived, she found herself face to face with her abusive husband. Every nerve in her body went rigid with fear. Mari didn't even have the courage to lift her head, but luckily the doctor appeared in time and gave her a sense of safety. Just earlier, Haere couldn't bear it any longer and told the doctor where Mari was hiding. Unexpectedly, Inwuk did not make things difficult for them, and even allowed the doctor to take Mari away smoothly. But just as the doctor was sending Mari back to her place, a terrifying scene occurred. Inwuk had followed them all the way. After the doctor left, he began searching for Mari's residence. At that moment, Mari also noticed people outside the window. Before she could react, Inwuk barged into the room and grabbed Mari, who was hiding in the corner, demanding to know where she was hiding his wife. Faced with the furious Inwuk, Mari didn't dare say a single word. Looking at this face that was both familiar and strange, Inwuk was filled with shock and doubt, and couldn't help but ask who Mari really was. Thankfully, the doctor arrived just in time, landing a punch on Inwuk and quickly escaping with Mari. But Inwuk wasn't about to let them go. He picked up a stick and charged after them. Enraged by the doctor and Mari's secrecy, he fought the doctor on the rooftop. Taking advantage of the chaos, Mari called the police. But the doctor was no match for Inwuk and was beaten to the ground. Fortunately, when Inwuk's subordinates heard the police sirens, they dragged him away. Inwuk, who still couldn't find his wife, was nearly driven mad. His obsession turned into countless punches against a wire fence, his hands bleeding, yet he felt no pain. Seeing the doctor's face covered in wounds for her sake, Marie felt deeply guilty. She realized it was all because of her face that the doctor was dragged into such trouble. So, she decided to leave without saying goodbye. While the doctor slept, Marie quietly packed her luggage and prepared to head for another city. When the doctor woke up, he found Marie gone, leaving only a note on the table. In a panic, he called Marie, begging her not to go. Though Marie's heart was full of longing, she chose to leave so the doctor would no longer be hurt because of her. She boarded the departing train. At that critical moment, the doctor rushed to the station and caught her in time, pulling Marie tightly into his arms. For the first time, Marie felt true warmth. To protect Marie from Inwuk's harassment, the doctor brought her home. Meanwhile, Inwuk ordered his men to watch them around the clock. This made it impossible for the doctor and Marie to leave the house. With no choice, the two began a domestic life together, cooking meals, tending to flowers, and sharing daily moments. Gradually, love blossomed between them. The doctor even washed Marie's hair for her. It became impossible to tell whether they were only pretending to be a couple or if they had truly become one. However, after learning that his son's wife had escaped, Inwuk's father issued a stern warning. He had 10 days to find Marie, or he would be cast out of the family. This added tremendous pressure to Inwuk. To speed things up, he even approached the doctor's good friend Songho. But Songho refused to say anything about the doctor or Seo-jin. Frustrated, Inwuk began his own secret investigation. One evening, the doctor confessed his feelings to Marie and told her that the next day, he would officially express his love. The following day, Marie waited at the restaurant, while the doctor sneaked away to buy a bouquet of roses. But on his way back, he received a message from Inwuk. When he opened it, he was stunned. It was a photo of Songho with Seo-jin. The doctor was struck hard. He had long suspected his wife loved someone else, but never imagined it was his closest brother-like friend of more than 10 years. Sitting across from Marie, he could only see Seo-jin's face in his mind. He recalled how Songho was always on business trips, while Hae conveniently took vacations at the same time. It was no coincidence at all. The confession he had planned could no longer be spoken. Marie sensed his low mood but didn't know why. Later, the doctor confronted Songho, demanding why he betrayed their bond. At first Songho denied it, but when shown the photo he stopped hiding and admitted the truth. He had fallen for Seo-jin first, but Seo-jin ended up marrying the doctor. He accused the doctor of stealing the love that should have been his. The doctor, heartbroken, cut ties with him immediately. Soon after, Inwuk found Hae again and asked her, "If your husband loved another woman, what would you do?" Terrified, Hae rushed to the doctor's house and warned Marie, "Everything the doctor is going through is because of you. If you two keep being together, who knows what might happen." She even revealed to Marie that the doctor's wife had been unfaithful. Marie finally understood the true reason for the doctor's sadness. When the doctor came home that night, he collapsed on the floor in anguish. Seeing this, Marie quickly came over to comfort him. But to her shock, the moment the doctor raised his head, he mistook Marie for Seo-jin again, venting years of anger and resentment onto her. "Why don't you care about me? How could you treat me this way?" When he finally came to his senses, he realized the terrible mistake he had made. Thinking back to all the moments he had shared with Marie, the doctor understood he wasn't in love with Seo-jin anymore. The one he truly loved was Marie. Without hesitation, he rushed out of the house, chasing after the direction Marie had gone. Remembering what Marie had once said, that when a wife runs away in anger, the husband must search for her barefoot to win her heart back. The doctor threw aside his umbrella in the pouring rain, took off his shoes, and walked toward Marie. Touched by his sincerity, Marie finally softened. The next morning, just as the doctor was about to leave the house, a car suddenly sped straight toward him. Behind the wheel was none other than Inwuk, Marie's twisted husband. He coldly warned the doctor, if he didn't hand over his wife soon, next time he couldn't guarantee he would hit the brakes in time. Marie happened to witness this frightening scene. Not wanting the doctor to get hurt because of her, she gathered her courage and decided to disguise herself as the doctor's wife, Seo-jin, to confront Inwuk. But unexpectedly, just as she arrived downstairs at Inwuk's company, she ran into her father-in-law. Even though her face had been completely changed, fear overwhelmed her. As they brushed past each other, her father-in-law suddenly stopped and called out to her, demanding to know why his son insisted on staying in a nearly bankrupt situation. Caught off guard and unsure how to respond, Marie was rescued when Inwuk appeared, pulling her behind him and leading her to his office. There, Marie openly revealed her intention. She begged Inwuk not to interfere in her marital affairs anymore. The matter with the photo was already over, the doctor had forgiven him, and she wanted to live in peace. But Inwuk told her bluntly, "If you just hand over my wife, none of this trouble would exist." As he rolled up his sleeves, Marie's trauma resurfaced, the painful memories of abuse she once endured. Her fear spiked, and she tried to leave immediately. But just as she reached the door, Inwuk slammed it shut, trapping her inside. Seeing the terror on her face, Inwuk felt something wasn't right. Determined to uncover the truth of Marie's identity, Inwuk secretly arranged a meeting with Songho. He took out his phone and showed him a video, evidence of the doctor's real wife, Seojin, being in a car accident. Shockingly, it revealed that instead of helping her, the doctor's close friend Songho abandoned her at the scene, leaving her fate uncertain. When pressed by Inwuk, Songho tried to defend himself, claiming he thought Marie had already died at that time. This revelation left Inwuk in utter disbelief. If the real Seojin had already died, then who was the woman by the doctor's side now? Unable to contain his suspicions, Inwuk went to Seojin's grave late at night. Seeing her tombstone with his own eyes confirmed it. There could not be two identical women in the world. Remembering Marie's strange behavior, a bold theory formed in his mind. The woman living as the doctor's wife must actually be Marie, transformed through surgery. Only his wife could look that perfect. To prove his suspicion, Inwuk smashed into Marie's rental apartment, determined to take her belongings for DNA testing. But while danger loomed closer, the doctor and Marie were blissfully unaware, enjoying a peaceful sunset by the sea. Letting go of the past, the doctor even returned his wedding ring to his late wife, choosing to cut ties with his old life once and for all. The betrayal was buried with Seojin. What he cherished now was not just Marie's resemblance, but the healing warmth they shared together. He promised Marie that he would face her twisted husband alongside her. Meanwhile, Inwuk cornered Haere again, demanding she reveal Marie and the doctor's whereabouts. Seeing his madness, Haere's heart softened. He recalled his childhood, growing up in the shadow of a violent father who abused his mother. He had tried to protect his mother, but his mother died because of him. The guilt haunted him, and perhaps that was why he fell for a woman like Seojin, someone who resembled his mother. But instead of cherishing her, Inwuk inherited his father's cruelty and abused Marie, forcing her to change her face to escape him. Crushed under the weight of his obsession, Inwuk broke down, while Haere, who had long been rejected by the doctor, held him in her arms, seeing her own reflection in his pain. Desperate, she even suggested he forget about his wife and accept her instead. Inwuk laughed bitterly and, with twisted resolve, told her that no matter what, he was a man who loved only one woman. At that same moment, while Marie and the doctor were enjoying music together, a chilling phone call arrived. It was Inwuk. His threatening voice echoed. If Marie did not return home by midnight, he couldn't guarantee Haere's safety. Terrified, Marie couldn't bring herself to tell the doctor and secretly boarded a train back alone. When she arrived, Inwuk immediately embraced her tightly. Trembling, Marie said she had already changed the face he once loved, and that she no longer had any meaning to him. But Inwuk didn't care. Wielding his immense wealth and influence, he vowed to make her undergo surgery again to restore her former face, to return everything to the way it was. Watching Marie's terrified expression, he laughed coldly, declaring that his Marie had finally come back. Dragged once again into the nightmarish mansion, Marie vanished. By the time the doctor arrived, he found only Haere, unconscious on the floor. The next day, Inwuk searched every plastic surgery hospital, but none agreed to help him. Desperate, he turned once more to Songho, asking if he could arrange it instead. The answer he got was shocking. Since it was the doctor who had altered Marie's face, only the doctor could restore her appearance. Having no other choice, Inwuk sent people to kidnap the doctor and forced him to perform surgery on Marie. He warned that if the doctor dared to refuse, he would bury him alive. Marie, knowing full well what her husband was capable of, immediately knelt on the ground and begged him to spare the doctor. Seeing his wife kneel for another man infuriated Inwuk, and he ordered her to step aside. Then he shoved both the doctor and Marie into the operating room. Inside, Marie pleaded with the doctor to agree to her husband's demand and perform the surgery, but the doctor refused, knowing that another operation could put Marie's life in grave danger. Watching Marie beg so desperately, the doctor instinctively reached out to wipe her tears, but Marie flinched away, because her husband was watching from outside. Seeing the doctor continue to refuse, Inwuk lost patience. In order to calm him down, Marie suggested that another doctor could handle the surgery. She then took his hand and said they should go home. But in a sudden moment of despair, Marie stepped into the middle of the road, intending to end her life. Luckily, Inwuk rushed forward in time to pull her back. Shaken, Marie warned her husband that if he ever harmed the doctor again, she would disappear from this world forever. Terrified by her words, Inwuk didn't dare say more and brought her back home. Later, Inwuk's father smashed a flower pot toward Marie's face, furious that she had undergone plastic surgery. Fortunately, Inwuk stepped in just in time to block it. The old man exploded with rage. He still loved Marie's original face and berated his son for being useless, unable to keep his wife by his side. He said if Marie had been pregnant earlier, she wouldn't have run away again and again. After the old man left, Inwuk tried to comfort Marie with a kiss on her neck as he always did. But staring at this unfamiliar face, he couldn't go through with it. The sharp contrast gnawed at his nerves. He pulled out old photos of himself and his wife, along with one of him as a child with his mother. Overcome with emotion, he remembered her warm embrace, followed immediately by the memory of her being beaten to death by his father. That night, Marie sneaked into the study to find a memory card she had hidden in her bag. It contained footage of her husband's domestic violence. Just as she thought she had regained some control over her life, Inwuk suddenly appeared, snatched the card, and played it. Watching countless scenes of himself beating Marie, he froze. He had always believed he loved her deeply, yet here was undeniable proof of the pain he had caused. But instead of admitting fault, Inwuk turned on Marie, blaming her for everything. His anger reignited, and he lashed out violently. Marie, devastated, collapsed on the floor. And in that moment Inwuk said, "I love you. I really do love you." But what kind of woman could accept such twisted love? The next day, Inwuk brought Marie to a restaurant, where they unexpectedly ran into Hara. While Marie went to the restroom, Hara tried to ask how she had been and whether Inwuk had hurt her. When Inwuk didn't answer, Hara noticed bruises on Marie's body. Unsure how else to help, she decided to tell the doctor everything. After hearing the truth, the doctor couldn't bear it any longer and rushed straight to Inwuk's house. Just as he was sharing a tender moment with Marie, Inwuk emerged from behind them, holding a gun. The doctor immediately shielded Marie with his body. Instead, Inwuk pointed the gun at himself. There was only one bullet in the chamber. He spun the revolver, wanting to prove his love to his wife. Marie was so terrified that her face went pale. Inwuk pulled the trigger again, his emotions spiraling out of control. Marie collapsed to the ground in shock. Inwuk's twisted love had already gone beyond reason. He cast a mocking glance at the doctor, as if ridiculing him for being nothing more than a man who only knew how to talk but could not truly act. After surviving twice by sheer luck, Inwuk had almost descended into madness. When he tried to pull the trigger yet again, Marie hurriedly grabbed his hand, crying out that she already felt his overwhelming love and begging him to stop. But Inwuk fired at himself once more. After gambling his life 3 times, he then lectured the doctor with arrogance, declaring that only those who could wager their lives were worthy. Fearing that her husband would continue this deadly game, Marie shouted that she loved him. Those 3 reckless shots had shaken her fragile heart again, and in the end, she chose to remain by his side. But just then, the doctor picked up the gun from the floor. Without saying much, he silently pulled the trigger. By sheer luck, he too survived. He told Inwuk that what he had done was never love. It was nothing but a despicable way of using his own life to threaten others. The doctor's words pierced deeper than bullets. At last, Inwuk was defeated. The doctor thought this would allow him to take Mari away, but just as they stepped outside, Inwuk revealed that Mari's mother was still under his control. Mari had no choice but to return. Even then, the doctor did not give up on her. He reached out to lawyers, hoping that with evidence of Inwuk's abuse, he could force a divorce. But because Inwuk was wealthy and powerful, they needed strong, undeniable proof. Mari, determined, set up a hidden camera beneath her easel, recording every incident of domestic abuse. To ensure the evidence was smuggled out, she hid the memory card inside a painting and entrusted a friend to sell it to an art gallery. When the doctor later received the painting and saw the morning glory on it, he immediately sensed that Mari was trying to send him a message. He studied it through the night, and at last discovered the hidden card. On it were crucial recordings, enough to take down Inwuk completely. The doctor immediately confronted him, showing him the evidence and demanding that he divorce Mari, or else he would expose everything publicly and ruin the family business. Faced with undeniable proof, Inwuk had no choice but to relent. He returned home to beg Mari to stay, promising to make it up to her. But Inwuk's promises had never meant anything before. Mari firmly refused, and with her mother, she left the villa. The doctor was waiting outside and took them in. For a moment, it seemed like everything was finally moving toward a better future. But the next day, Inwuk called, asking to see Mari one last time before filing for divorce. Mari agreed, hopeful that it was finally over. Still, the doctor worried, and secretly gave her a phone with GPS tracking. As they drove, Inwuk suddenly turned the car away from the courthouse and headed into the wilderness. Mari tried to call for help, but Inwuk snatched the phone and tossed it aside. In the desolate fields, he asked if she had ever truly loved him. Mari replied coldly that he had never loved her, she only reminded him of his mother. Furious at her rejection, Inwuk once again pointed the gun at himself. Mari managed to stop him before the trigger went off. She quickly dialed for help, and both were rushed to the hospital. But Mari slipped away before Inwuk woke, knowing he would come after her again. At last, she gathered her courage and reported all of his abuse to the police. The scandal quickly spread, with the media surrounding Inwuk. Under pressure, he admitted to abusing Mari, and even exposed his father's crimes of corruption and illegal fundraising, destroying the family business with his own hands. Back at home, he pointed a gun at his father, blaming him for turning him into this monster. In the end, he couldn't bring himself to pull the trigger. Broken and desperate, he kidnapped Mari, dragging her back to the villa. Holding her tightly, he tried to end their lives together with one bullet. Mari closed her eyes, knowing this twisted love would end in tragedy. But Inwuk's old wounds flared up, leaving him in agony. Mari seized the chance to break free. A gunshot rang out, and Inwuk collapsed, on the brink of death. Just then he saw Mari embracing the doctor, the man who had truly protected her. Overwhelmed by jealousy and despair, he raised the gun again, aiming at the doctor. But the bullet was stopped by Mari, who shielded him with her own body. Watching Mari fall before him, Inwuk completely broke down. He could not believe he had killed the woman he loved most. Overcome with grief, he turned the gun on himself and ended his life. Mari survived after emergency treatment. Finally free, she and the doctor began a new life together. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and drop a heart if you love the series.